Hello everyone and welcome back to Brink of Speed. Today we are going to talk about the Corvette C8 Z51 being tested hard and why the results may disappoint you. Now, before we get started, I just want to explain why it's been a while since I've done a video. I actually went back to Colorado, where I'm from, for the Thanksgiving holiday, but I'm back now. So I wanted to go ahead and get a video out for you guys, and I'm excited to talk about this discussion. And by the way, throughout this whole entire video, I will explain why you should not be disappointed with the results of this C8 test. Now, as most of you probably already know, Randy Pobst and Kim Reynolds from Motor Trend put the C8 Z51 to the test. And while I don't know much about Kim Reynolds, I certainly know a lot about Randy Pobst and trust his expertise with a car as anyone should. He has been an SCCA Audi factory race driver for a very long time, and after he retired, he now works for the big car magazines, helping them test out fast cars. During this video, racing terms will be used like trailing throttle oversteer, high-speed power oversteer, and mid-corner understeer. These are all terms typically used by a race team, so it's exciting to know that Randy is using these terms with the brand new C8 Z51 Corvette, because he is going to see if he can eliminate all three of these minor issues. So Randy and Kim were at VIR to see if the understeer that they had all experienced could be changed. Chevy actually gave VIR 3 cars the day that they went to the track to test the C8s. They gave them a Stingray C7 and 2 C8 Stingrays. One was a stock setup and the other was a track-focused suspension setup with huge camber. Randy Pobst immediately said that he has never been a big fan of the C7 and the rear suspension and how it seemed to steer itself in corners. Now, this is something that I have never experienced in my C7, but obviously I've never pushed it to the limits like Randy Pobst has pushed the C7 to. So he was able to take that C7 Stingray out on the track and put it through a vigorous test before he got in the C8, which is awesome because once he got in the C8, he was able to compare the two very closely side by side. And he immediately liked the C8 suspension and the response that it gave him much more than the C7. He talked about how it was like laser precision with the initial turn-in. However, he also brought up that there's something called trailing throttle oversteer that's happening when he's not having to brake hard for a turn and he's basically just lifting off the gas and turning in. Now, that trailing throttle oversteer is actually something that a lot of cars do, whether they're front engine or rear engine. However, rear and mid-engine cars have a tendency to do this more than a front engine car. And the reason why is because when you let off the throttle like that and then turn in for a high speed or even a low speed corner, the rear end is going to want to come around because you're not actually setting the suspension up correctly before you enter the turn. As you know, most turns require you to brake pretty hard, which sets the suspension up properly for that initial turn in, which balances the car out perfectly so that when you turn in, you usually would not have any kind of oversteer. Most of the time, oversteer comes at corner exit, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So the next thing that he noticed, which is very puzzling, is that the car had exit power oversteer at higher speeds and not at lower speeds. At lower speeds, a car with really great torque, which this car has, would tend to spin the tires coming out of a corner. Whereas at a higher speed, it would seem the downforce and the grip and the less torque at that higher speed would not be able to spin the tires coming out of the turn. But that's precisely what it was doing. It was oversteering while coming out of a higher speed turn. Now, the next thing that he brought up was called mid-corner understeer. Randy explained that he was actually okay with the mid-corner understeer. There's actually a very big difference between mid-corner understeer and exit corner understeer. When you're in the middle of the corner, you can actually correct understeer with less or more throttle. When you're exiting a corner, it's almost impossible to correct understeer with any kind of throttle. You actually have to lift off the throttle until the front tires get grip and then power through after that. So it makes you lose a lot of speed out of the turn. And with the technology that's in this Z51 package car, with all of the magnetic ride control, it's probably a pretty simple thing for a race car driver to correct. Now, he talked to Kim about the difference between a high-speed track scenario with mid-corner understeer and the figure eight with mid-corner understeer, because that's what Kim took the C8 on, was the figure eight track. There's a huge difference. On a figure eight track, you're going a lot slower and you're turning a lot longer around big sweeping turns. So you're not going to just have mid-corner understeer, you're going to have almost the entire corner understeer. And that's why it was harder for them to get a quicker time and a higher G-force in the figure eight, because it had too much understeer in that situation. Next, Randy gets in the track setup C8, which handled completely different than the first setup. First of all, they added a huge amount of camber to the second C8. And when I say huge, I mean 3 degrees of camber, and that's a lot. This reduced both understeer and oversteer immediately. They were both blown away by how much camber was needed to correct the suspension on the C8. Which, by the way, guys, even 3% camber on a race car is a lot in some scenarios. But what they found, as I said, is that this immediately made the C8 handle better. This is great news in my opinion, because there are a lot of people out there that are going to take their C8 to the track, and I'm one of them. And I'm not afraid to go and have my alignment aligned in a way where I have the right amount of camber to have the most handling possible for my new C8. And GM did an excellent job, according to both Kim and Randy, of really setting this C8 up with a huge amount of adjustability in that suspension. So I'm super excited because of that. Guys, look, there are plenty of race teams that struggle with both understeer and oversteer in most races. Now, obviously, there are plenty of supercars out there right now that have great balance and handling without these major adjustments being done. However, we already know that GM has set this car up to have a little bit of understeer for safety. The good news is, both Randy and Kim loved driving both cars and thought that this was the way that Corvette should have been made from day one. They both called this a minor tuning point. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. I agree with this. It is a minor tuning point, and it's something that I'm not worried about at all. Kim followed that up by saying what we all know to be true, and that was this. This is the first C8, and they are only going to get better, and it will be fun to watch that happen. So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, Randy Pobst and Kim both loved the C8. They both said that this was not a big deal, that it had a little bit of understeer. The bigger deal was the oversteer, actually, because oversteer is more dangerous than understeer. Obviously, that's why GM put understeer in this car in the first place. So again, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Also, don't forget that I have one of these brand new C8 Corvette Z51 on order, and I can't wait to bring you guys all of the amazing footage of this car and everything that I can help you learn about this car in the spring. So if you're interested in that and you have not joined this wonderful community, consider hitting that subscribe and bell notification so that you're notified when my new content comes out. Please give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And if you really love the Brink of Speed logo that's in the bottom right corner of this screen, you can go to the Brink of Speed store, which I will add a link to the description and also the first pinned comment below so that you can easily navigate to the store, and you can help support this channel by going on there and making a purchase of merchandise. So I hope each and every one of you has a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you out on the road.